Top of the morning, everyone. My name is Tshidi. I'm back with another video today. Today I'm joined by Faith Madondo. Faith will be our victim for today. She will be trying to answer some of the questions that you guys sent to us. And thank you very much for everybody that's already shared some of the questions that you wanted to have addressed. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. As I said, it's always nice when people subscribe to the channel because then you let us know exactly what you'd like to see and we'll be able to put in a bit of energy into some of these things. So we've got about 6 questions that we're going to address. We also have some questions that we've put aside as some of the side questions that we need to also address. But we'll make sure that at least we address as many of your questions as possible. So I'm going to start with the first question that everybody asked. So Faith, tell us a bit about yourself.
So rightfully said, Faith, raised Pretoria, completed my matric in Pekinwood College, then moved over to Johannesburg to make the career thing work. Been thoroughly enjoying the shift between Pretoria and Johannesburg. Studied in Pretoria, working in Joburg. I think there's been majority of the shifts are very different in terms of the approaches that the two cities have. Currently employed by F&B, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. Background in agency, then moved over to F&B, which has been a very good perspective change. Looking forward to the growth within the talent acquisition space. Mom to a 4-year-old champion, which keeps me crazy. Thoroughly enjoy that from an engagement perspective. I think that's taught me a lot on compassion and just understanding that we all have our craziness, but we will be fine.
So that is another way of actually answering that question. Now, Faith, one of the questions that anybody will ever ask you is to say, why did you feel the need in sharing a bit of your personal information about who you are, your 4-year-old champion and all those things? Why did you feel it was important to actually bring it in this particular question that says, tell me about yourself?
Yeah, I think the key thing about introductions, especially in this kind of space, is to ensure that you're not just looking at the formal part of it, which is obviously the career aspect as well as the studies aspect. It's very important for me as an individual to also introduce who I am as a person in my private space, because that is the person that you are hiring at the end of the day. So there's a huge part of who I am as an individual that will impact how I am as an employee in your organization. So the key thing that I found with this question in terms of touching on the personal side is you also have to be very cognizant of the balance of how much of your personal self you are sharing in the space. I think there's still lots of time for you to get to know each other as you grow within the organization and the person that you're working with. But from an introductory perspective, I think it's key to have that sort of balance in terms of your private space.
Okay. So the second way that you can also answer this, as Faith has said, sometimes it's always nice to know who the person is. The second way you can also look at it is, I always say to people, please seek clarity. What would the person want to hear? In some instances, you'll find that people don't want to hear about your personal life. They just want to only focus on your career life. In some cases, they're also just only looking at your career life and they don't want to, or they want to hear about your personal life, but they don't want to hear about your career life. So just always sometimes seek clarity when it comes to that. But also that also depends on the conversations that you've already had as you started introducing yourselves to each other. So that's very important for us to then focus on. Awesome. The next question that we normally have is salary expectations. What is your salary expectations, Faith?
So I've shared my details with the rest of the business in terms of my pay slips and all of that. But I think in terms of where your company is currently sitting from a benefits perspective, it's a little bit difficult for me to give you an off-the-hand figure in terms of expectation. I think there is obviously an expectation of growth from a financial perspective as well. But if I could just apply myself in terms of exactly where you're sitting from a benefits point of view as well as the actual cost to company, it would make it a lot easier for me to make that decision.
Fantastic. Now, the reason why we try to answer it this way, or the reason why I would advise a lot of people to answer it this way, is because if, for example, you come from a company that already has other benefits over and above just the leave days, you don't want to end up finding yourself that you have accepted a certain amount of money, but from a benefits point of view, you've actually lost out because now the leave days have reduced to 15 days and previously you used to actually get 28 days. So it's very important that you at least seek clarity from the guys to say, if you want me to give you a number that you're looking for, then it might be best that you share some of the benefits that you've got as a company so that I can then apply myself and say, this is the number that I think will actually then work. The next question, Faith, that we had was, what makes you the best candidate for this role?
I think from a skills perspective, there is a lot of alignment from my background as well as what you're currently looking for in this particular function. But I think over and above that, what I value the most is that there is a lot of alignment from a corporate culture perspective, which I think skills are transferable. I think you can find a comparative candidate with the same skill set as I may have, but I think the biggest alignment for me for this role, which I think would be beneficial to the business as well, is the fit for the culture and the corporate identity.
Okay. So the nice thing about the way Faith has answered this one, and which will benefit a lot of people, is that a lot of people tend to focus too much on that skill set to say, I've got the following 10 skills.
Yeah.
And then what then happens is that the next question as recruiters that will then ask is to say, what if another person has got the exact same 10 skills?
Yeah.
Then who should we then hire? But what was nice about Faith bringing that up was she then started speaking about the corporate culture, the alignment between who she is as well as the corporate or the organization. Be very careful though that you've actually done enough research about the company, because if you say corporate culture and somebody says to you, cool, what about the corporate culture do you think is aligned to who you are? You need to be able to top of mind already say, well, for example, you guys believe in the following, this is basically what I am, this is who I am, and this is where the alignment comes in. So I like the way you've answered that. So as you can see, guys, we're trying to make it as practical as humanly possible so that you can also make it personal to you. You don't have to now hear me say, this is how you answer it. You can make it personal to yourself. Yeah. The next question that has always been very interesting, and I like to ask this question quite a lot, is why shouldn't we hire you?
The flip end of that.
Yes.
I think it's so very similar to the answer that I've just given you now with regards to why you should hire me. I think it's an inverse of character and fit for your organization. I value a lot on leadership. I value a lot around the identity of the organization and it just having values that are aligned to me as well. So if it is an organization that doesn't look at personal development, doesn't look at good leadership, maybe I'm not the right person for this role, because then it's not speaking to
who you are. Fantastic. So as you can see, like I think it's a nice way of actually answering it, because if you think about it, a lot of people when you ask them the question that says, why shouldn't we hire you? They're like, but I'm here for the job. Like,
I want this job.
Why would you not want to hire me? That's the first question they always ask.
Yeah.
And the reality is, yes, it's true. If, for example, every single thing that you currently have is not aligned to who I think I am, if you're gonna now check my integrity, question my ability to be able to do the work, leadership is not there, you don't want to develop me, then maybe because I'm gonna be a pain in your life, then maybe I wouldn't be the right person.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about that is that you're not then only just saying these are the 10 reasons why you shouldn't hire me. You're saying, I know what I bring to the table. This is what I've already shared.
Yeah.
But if I'm not bringing that, or if you guys are not meeting me halfway, because that was my perception about your brand, and if that's not the case, then maybe I'm definitely not the right person for this role. So that's one of the nice things that I like about this role. The other thing that is always very difficult for a lot of people is, why did you leave, or why do you want to leave your current company?
So I've been in my current role for 5 years.
Yeah.
And from the time that I've joined the organization, I've developed from an analyst to a specialist function. I've seen a lot of growth from a personal side in terms of personal development, as well as in the role itself, hence the move from an analyst to a specialist. I've also just looked at where I'm going in terms of where I want to take my career. And from an alignment perspective, I think it's the right time for me to also start looking at opportunities elsewhere. Hence my engagement with your organization, excuse me, because there is that alignment from a growth perspective, both personal and career development.
So, Faith, what if at some stage you have one of those people that then says to you, let's say it's got nothing to do with your personal development. Please don't forget to subscribe. So let's say it's got nothing to do with your development. It's you've got a toxic boss. Like, this boss is a disaster. As a lot of people normally say, sometimes you have this toxic person that makes your life hell. How would you answer that question?
I think the key thing for me in that instance is to focus on what it does for me as an individual. I don't think that it's imperative for me to discuss in that much detail my boss or whoever it is that I'm struggling with in that space. So I'd probably look at it from a point where I'm saying, I'm currently in a space where it's not conducive for me to fulfill certain functions. There's a lot of alignment from a role perspective, but in terms of leadership or guidance within the team, there is a little bit of a misalignment, which doesn't allow me to fully develop or fully fulfill the function or mandate that I've been hired to do. If it is from a values perspective, highlight that. If it is from a personality perspective, highlight that. And I think the key thing is to obviously identify what you are identifying as a problem and what your solution is to that without necessarily bad mouthing or having a bad conversation regarding your boss.
Why should you not badmouth your boss? I'm just saying. Why should you not tell them this person is a nightmare? Just in general.
Well, I think for me, maybe personally, it speaks a lot more to grounds of engagement.
Yes.
If I don't like Tshidi, it's my business with Tshidi,
yes,
that I don't like Tshidi for that particular reason. You also might not know, maybe your boss is a partner to somebody in the room.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the world is a lot smaller than we think.
Yeah.
So I think just avoid having unnecessary context. I think it's more than enough information to share that the environment is not conducive. If there is further detail required, I think that's an offline conversation and shouldn't guide the interview.
Fantastic. So remember, guys, one of the biggest fears that we also have as recruiters is we bring you into our business. You spoke badly about the previous line manager. You're going to come in, and when you leave our business, you're going to speak really badly about us as line managers as well. So self-preservation is one of the key things. So it's very important that you don't badmouth other people, because then at the end of the day, like Faith was saying, what if they actually go for braais together on weekends, but you don't know? You know, they might actually know a bit more about you than you thought they did. So be very careful that you don't badmouth other people, because also it speaks to your character and the person that you are.
Yeah.
The next question that a lot of people always ask is some of the biggest mistakes you've committed in your previous company. Why do people ask that question?
Yeah. So this is a self-awareness question. What one is trying to test here is to see if you're able to identify where your shortfalls have been. And beyond that, also identifying how you would avoid or how you would resolve that spacing or a situation if it had to happen again. I think it's very similar to the weakness question, where you find yourself asking, are you able to identify your weaknesses? And even if the weakness is still a reality that you live with, how do you go around that weakness to make it a strength or to make it workable in your space on a day-to-day?
Agreed. And for a lot of people that have been working for more than 5 years, I don't think, Faith, you can ever say you've never had a mistake in your previous life. And I think a lot of people tend to think that sharing the mistakes will take them out of their possibility of getting the role. So guys, self-awareness is key in every role that we normally hire. And sometimes this question is just to see, are you even aware of who you are and what you're capable of? And then the next one that we then have is definition of success, where people are asking to say, how would you then define success? Why would you ask somebody that? Why would you want to know about the definition of success for them?
So I think for me, it's two things. The one is, I always find, maybe I'll start with the definition of success to me. I think it's very important for me, from a balance perspective, to identify each area of my life that I find needs to be successful for me to consider total success for my life. So if one is identifying success in a role, then define that in terms of what elements of that role bring you success. If it is from a title perspective, if it is from leadership of people or specialist in a role, those are the things that I generally want to understand. How do you define success? Maybe success to someone is being a super mom. Maybe to someone else it's being a soccer mom. So those are the things that I think, again, it goes back to understanding the person that you're engaging with, and also just to see if they have goals. And
true.
what this person actually, what fulfills them. I think it also helps us, if you've got a manager in the room, to understand what incentivizes this person, because some people also speak to success in smaller measurements. If a person is like that, then how do you keep this person excited to continue succeeding and for them to get into the next milestone?
Fantastic. I don't have to add anything there because we then also had other questions that we thought will actually add to the whole thing. And one of the questions that we had was, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years, or where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
And why do people actually ask that question?
Yeah. So I'll start with the why the question comes up. I think it's very important to know that the person that you're engaging with, or the people that you're going to be including into your team, have a plan. It's very often that you find people that are just going. To have some level of understanding of where you're taking your career, whether it's in your immediate space from a role perspective or from a growth perspective in the organization, it's very important to understand what that plan is and if you have a plan. And it's very important to have that plan for yourself because it also helps you to map out exactly where it is that you're taking yourself.
Fantastic. And as you've heard, guys, I don't think I need to actually explain further on that one. There was another one that said they've been asked questions like, how would you describe yourself in a tweet? This one, guys, focuses a lot more on trying to check if the individual has got the ability to be short and brief and straight to the point. Because a tweet, as you remember, back in the days, it used to be 140 characters. I think nowadays they don't really have a number. They just show you a little wheel that tells you that you're about to take up all the space. But the question about how would you describe yourself in a tweet, try and make sure that you shorten everything and say, how would you then answer it? But obviously you can't then start abbreviating in your language as you speak. To start saying BRB, QTTZ, whatever, all those things. So just remember that. As I mentioned, the next question that people always ask is about counteroffer. And I know you mentioned that sometimes it's the balance of what people are going to offer to the different companies. Why do you guys ask about counteroffer? You come from an agency, you've coached people about counteroffers. Why is it such a big thing?
Yeah, I think counteroffers touch on two things. I think one of the key things is that it is a character thing. Are you able to commit and fulfill your commitment, which I think is a big thing for many people. But the other part is, what is your drive for you to actually move? One of the key questions I used to ask people at agency if they wanted to accept a counter offer is, what was your actual initial reason for wanting to move out of this role? And you'd find that if a person takes a counter offer, they're coming back to you in 3 months' time.
Yeah.
Because your key reason for wanting to move in the beginning is not going to change. They've just given you money now that they would have given you next year anyway. So you've just had an advance. So it doesn't really solve the core problem of why you want to move. So I think those are the two things that I would want to understand if a person would want to take a counter offer. Why?
Yeah, counter offers are dangerous. Be very careful that you don't take a counter offer, because also you could get victimized after you've taken a counter offer.
Yeah.
Because now your line manager knows that you're not necessarily fully in that.
committed.
You're not committed to the company. And then the last one, I saw a few lovely answers about this one. Would you like to cover up your company or your boss?
No.
Why not?
Because who lies?
Okay.
I think, again, character we're testing. Because I think in terms of one's comfort to make, whether it's a small lie or a big lie that's being committed to, attests to the type of person that they are. So what you're trying to test here is are you hiring a person that is honest and is able to stand up for what is right? Because it's an ethical thing. Whether it's a small thing or a big thing, fact is you want to make sure that the people that you've got in your organization are obviously committed to the better good of the organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys. Once again, please don't forget to subscribe. Click that subscribe button. Please, if you don't subscribe, I won't be able to continue doing these videos. And make sure that you also follow Faith on LinkedIn, because it's very important that you keep on supporting her as well. And then we will make sure that we try and share as much of these ideas with you guys as possible. We'll pick a topic that we'll then address in the next video, and hopefully Faith will still join me again. Right? You'll join me for the next one.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Next time.
So yeah, Faith will join me again for the next video. But thank you very much, guys, for taking time to watch this video, and looking forward to actually speaking to you guys later. Top of the morning once again, Tshidi, and until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.